How many sets should you do per exercise? People do anything from 1 to 10 sets per exercise, so it's understandable to be a bit confused about how many sets you should do. There is a simple answer that applies in most scenarios, and that's 2 sets. But if you want the tools to be able to choose how many sets to do per exercise in every scenario to make the best training plan possible, stick around. I will be going into the pros and cons of both high and low sets per exercise, so you will be able to make the best choice in every situation. Let's start with the pros and cons of only 1 set per exercise. If you're very limited on the amount of sets you can perform for a body part in a session, from either just being lazy and not wanting to do many sets per session, or being on a full body split, where only 2 sets per body part is 22 sets total, which is around a 1 hour and 30-minute session, and you can't really add sets to the session without it turning excessively long. So doing 2 sets per exercise in a full body plan means that each muscle is only hit from one angle. Doing 1 set per exercise in a plan like that means that you'll be able to hit each muscle in a session from 2 angles, which might be slightly more optimal, because it both makes sure that more fibers are taken to the limit in each session so no part of the muscle is left out, and because the distribution of stimulus and damage to each fiber is more even. They recover more in sync instead of one part of the muscle being absolutely destroyed 2 days later with another part already being recovered. An example of this is if you do 2 sets of an upper chest movement. Your lower chest might be recovered 2 days later and ready to be stimulated again, while your upper chest might still be recovering. Uneven recovery of parts of the muscle groups therefore mean that a part of the muscle will always be ready to be stimulated again, but is held back from having to wait for the rest of the muscle to recover. Therefore, the more evenly you stimulate the muscle group and the more it recovers in sync, the less days you waste where a part of the muscle is ready to be trained but can't. The more even the recovery of each fiber of the muscle is, the more you'll be able to stimulate that muscle as a whole throughout the weeks and months, because less days are wasted where a part of the muscle is just waiting around to be stimulated. This is not a huge deal though, and can't be worked around with having periods where you focus on a certain part of the muscle. You could split it up by, for example, focusing on the upper chest for a few months, and then after a few months, focus on the lower to middle chest. Another pro of only doing 1 set per exercise is that you'll be able to have more exercise variety. If you only do a few movements for your body parts and just hammer them with an extreme amount of sets, your joints and ligaments are always stressed in the same way, which makes you more prone to aches, pains, and overuse injuries. Muscle imbalances can also cause pain and injuries. A wide exercise selection where you stress your muscles from all angles reduces the likelihood of there being weak links in your physique that might be causing pain. With so many pros from only doing 1 set per exercise, why would you even do anything more than that? Well, first of all, only doing 1 set per exercise is boring as hell. I, for example, warm up for at least 2 sets for every exercise that I do, which would mean that I would be spending more time doing warm-up sets than working sets. And the real fun is in the working sets. The pump, the burn, and just the achievement feeling after finishing a hard set. I only do 1 set on a few movements because I personally like doing more than 1 set. And for me, the second set in most cases just feels better. My joints aren't as achy, which means that I can push harder and get more out of the set. If you experience the same thing, an additional set pushed harder definitely outweighs the uneven recovery thing mentioned earlier. Once you understand the pros and cons of different set amounts per exercise, the goal is to find the fewest amount of sets per exercise that give you the best results. Start by paying attention to how your body actually responds in the gym. Ask yourself, how many sets per exercise do I genuinely enjoy before I start wanting to move on? Maintaining muscle mass as an advanced natural lifter is way harder than most people think. So get the idea out of your head that you can just work hard for a few years and then relax to maintain. Lift as you plan to lift in the same way for the rest of your life, or the rest of the time that you plan to look like a sick cunt. That's why training enjoyment has to be the #1 priority. Then make sure that you're doing enough exercise variety to keep your joints healthy. If you're always hammering the same movements with tons of sets, you'll eventually run into aches, pains, and overuse issues. From there, pay attention to how your performance changes across your sets. If your first 1 or 2 working sets don't feel great, but by the second or third you feel fully warm and able to push harder, that's a good sign that adding another set was worth it. And to recap, the goal isn't to do as few sets as possible per exercise, it's to do the fewest amount of sets possible that still let you train hard, enjoy your sessions, and stay pain-free. And for many lifters, that's around 2 sets per exercise. But depending on the exercise, how you warm up, how your body feels, it could be 1, 2, or even all the way up to 6. So when it comes to choosing how many sets to do per exercise, don't overcomplicate it. Start with 2 sets and adjust from there based on how your joints feel, how warm you get, and what you enjoy. I hope that you learned a thing or two about choosing how many sets to do per exercise. If you did, consider subscribing for more training knowledge. Thank you for watching to the very end, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Peace.